So we are going to look into action controller one more time, and we are going to see action controller classes, and then we are going to see request handling, and then we are going to learn request parameters. We have some exposure to params already, and then we are going to learn the concept of session and flash, and then we are going to see how things get rendered, and we are going to see the concept of redirection, and we are going to see classic problem of user refresh and redirection when you are creating a new post or something like that. Unless you actually redirect to get, you might actually have a duplication of the end action, post action, when the user refresh the page or something like that. So we are going to actually see that classic problem and why redirection is in fact needed. And then we are going to see filters. We're going to learn about filters. So plenty of topics to cover in this presentation. So what is action controller? So this is the same slide that you have seen in Rails Basics presentation. So action controller play the role of controller in MVC framework. So we are talking about this. Okay, so basically it does perform these things. So again, this is the same slide that we have seen in Rails Basics presentation. So controller handle incoming web request, and controller is made up of multiple actions, as we have seen, and the actions are executed to handle incoming requests and then either render a template or redirect to another action. And action is defined as a public method of a controller, and also mapping has to be configured in routes.rb file. Alright, so let's talk about the action controller classes. So your own action controller, in this case hello controller, is a child class of application controller. Okay, and then you are going to add actions. So again, this is the same slide that you have seen before. So here we are basically adding say hello action in this controller. So we have added the single action here. As we have seen before, application controller class is the subclass of action controller base class. And application controller class is automatically provided in application RB file, the application controller RB file right here when you create a Rails project. And controller and action parameters. So requests are processed by the controller framework by extracting the value of controller and action keys in the request parameters hash. So whenever user send a request to the server, meaning your application, there are two request parameters that are automatically constructed. That is controller and action. So these are the request parameters that you can in fact check, okay, to see what is the name of the controller and what is the name of the an action. Okay. Alright, so once action is identified in which controller, then basically remaining request parameters and the session and the full request with the HTTP headers are made available to the action through instance variables, meaning all the request information will be available to your action so that your action can perform whatever it needs to do. Okay, and then action will be performed, of course. Alright, so let's take a look at the controllers and action, exercise 1. Okay, so exercise 1. So in this exercise, what we want to learn is, we want to actually see all the params coming from the client. So in order to do that, what we are going to do is we are going to add this line to the application layout file. So every request, every page will actually display the params. Okay, and actions can access past parameters to params array. So everything that is coming from from the client will be captured in params array. Okay, so if you want to see the controller params, then you are going to display this. And if you want to see action, you can display this. So when you do debug this one, then it will display everything. Okay. All right. So that's basically what we are going to do in this exercise. So first of all, let's try to run Hello World web application that we were working on in the Rails basics. Okay. So this is actually provided on the samples. Okay. All right. Now let's actually try that. So we are going to go and the project is Rails controller, and go to samples. Okay, so you have this Hello World application. Okay, now let's try to run it and what happens. Okay, so Rails. Okay. Now you're going to actually see this problem. Okay, could not find JSON 1.75 in any of the sources and bundle install to install the missing gems. The reason is because when I provided this Hello World application, I was using old version of Rails, which was using older version of JSON 1.7.5. Now my system has been upgraded to use the Rails 3.2.13. Okay, which is actually using newer version of JSON 1.8. Okay, so basically when I run this application, it was looking for JSON 1.7.5, but it couldn't find from my system directory. Okay, so at this point, what you have to do is you are going to call bundle install. Bundle install. That means I want to actually install all the dependencies, all the gems that this particular application needs. Okay, so it's going to get JSON 1.7.5 from the net because I don't have that in my system. Okay. All right, so you can see it's going to now use the JSON 1. So it's installing JSON 1.7.5. Now, even if you do that, you might actually experience this problem, especially if you're running Windows. So in that case, what you want to do is bundle update. So you're actually updating, all the gems to the up-to-date versions. Okay, so you're going to actually perform bundle update. Okay, and then try bundle install one more time. Okay. Okay, so you are all set. Now you can actually run the Rails server. Yeah, the reason I showed this one is this problem is because whenever there is actually the mismatch between versions, you are going to experience this problem. Okay. All right. Oops. Now what is okay? So now okay. So I'm already running some server. That's why. So I have to actually clean. I have to Control C out. Okay. All right. Now let's run the server. Okay. So now it's up and running fine. So I'm going to open localhost 3000, and it should actually display. Yeah, so this is basically what I expect. Okay. All right. So this is what we're seeing. Now what we want to do is we want to observe parameters with the debug. So you are going to change a layer file. So this layer file is going to be used for all views. All the views. If you take a look at the application html.elb file. So let me actually open that thing. I should actually say, okay, so and we are going to hands-on Rails and controller, and I'm actually using not configuration, Rails control and samples and hello world. Okay, so here if you take a look at the application, the HTML.elb file, that is a layout file. Okay, so if you go to the view and the layout, this is the file. So this file is the layout file that is being used by all the views. So we're going to actually talk about, we're going to actually learn about this layout file when we actually cover the views later on, tomorrow actually. So basically the layout file has what is called the yield, and this is where the view file will actually provide the contents. Okay, so by changing this file with this line, so we are going to actually change debug params, and we don't actually display only this in Rails environment, is development. So we are checking whether you are running in development or not, and then we are going to display the params. So when you add it and save it, and then when you refresh it, then you are going to see all the params that are coming from the client. Okay, so let me do that. So I'm going to add this line and write up the yield, and we save the change, and then if you refresh the page, you can see now the this controller is hello and action is say hello. Okay, so as I said before, every request has at least these two query param is set, controller and action. Okay, so that is basically what you should see. Now you are going to change a controller. So what we want to do is, instead of actually displaying the hard-coded value, we want to display the value that is coming from the client. Okay, so here what we want to do is we want to get my greeting param, and that's the value I want to set to the greeting. And then I also want to actually get the my author, the value coming from the client. Okay, so just comment this out, this line, and then use these two lines of code. Okay, and then what we are going to do is, then when you actually refresh the page, you're not going to see anything because the client is not really sending anything. So at that point, you are going to actually add these values to your URL. So here, question mark, my author is whatever your name, or and ampersand sign my greeting to P. So you're basically sending these two the request parameters to the server. So at that point, you're going to see my greeting message is peace, and my name is whatever you specify over here. Okay, so basically and also you're going to actually see my author and my greeting request parameters. Okay, and you can also actually find out information in the log file, but this is not really that much important. Okay, since we actually displaying it in the debug. Okay, but if you're not actually using debug, this is where you can actually find the whatever values that are coming from the client. Okay, so you can see the params are actually being passed as the hash object, right? Okay, and then we also want to display controller and action, so we are going to add these two lines of code. Okay, so here we are getting the controller param value and action param value, and then we are assigning to local variable, the instance variable of this. Okay, and then we are going to display that information in our views as well. So we are just displaying those values, my controller name, my action name. Okay, and again, when you refresh the page, and then you should also see controller name is hello and the action name is say hello. Okay. All right, so I'm going to give you guys about 10 minutes to try this exercise 1. All right? Next topic is request parameters. So we have already seen request parameters. In fact, we captured request parameters in exercise 1. So we were able to capture controller and action, and then you just sent request parameters like this. Okay, so as we have seen, when the user has sent the request parameters like a category all and limit 5, okay, it will have basically this one as a params hash. So you should be able to access this category the value with a params category, and the value is going to be all, and params limit is 5. So this is something we have already exercised in exercise 1. You can also have a multi-dimensional parameters. So here you are actually dealing with a model and attribute. So this is a question I think that Dave asked. When how things actually get captured as a model. Okay, so when you have input field, okay, and the name is in the form of like this: user and name, and user and age. Okay, so basically, this is the basically the map in a sense. Okay, this will be captured in a form of like this. So user, and then name is Dave, and the age is 5. Okay, so value is Dave and age is 5. Okay, so when you actually use this kind of form, okay, and then this will be generated from the client and will be sent to the Rails application, and this form can be actually mapped into a model. In this case, the model is a user, and the properties of the model in this case name and age. So Rails is going to be responsible for receiving this value, and then we'll assign all these values to the proper properties of that user model. So this is done for you by Rails. Okay, so as long as you keep this format, okay, and then the model will be set automatically. So this is a very important convenience. Okay. So when you are using this text field username and text field user age, okay, so the first one is going to be constructed, is going to be considered as a model, and this one is going to be considered as an attribute or property. The same thing here. So this will in fact generate this input elements, and that will in turn will generate a request object representing this. Okay. So as long as you are following this convention, then whatever value that is entered in this text field will be set to name property of user model, and here age property of user model. Okay. All right. So that is the exercise 2. So let's take a look at the exercise 2. So here we're going to use the hello name. Okay, so you're going to actually do the same thing. You're going to actually say bundle update and bundle install. Or you can actually use the hello name application that you developed in the Rails basics application directly if you do not want to use the provided sample application. Okay, so here when you submit a form, you can see this is the name and age, right? Okay. And then you also actually let's actually take a look at the params. Okay, so you're gonna add this line to your application HTML ELB layout file. Okay, now when you submit it, okay, what happens is this is what you are going to see. So you are going to see user and then indented name and age. Okay, so this is basically displaying the multi-dimensional request parameters, and that will be captured as a model name and the name property and age property accordingly. Okay. All right. So you can certainly take a look at this code again, index.html ELB file. Okay. And if you take a look at the source file of this, you are going to actually see these input elements. So here, input is username, and this is important: name, user and name, and user and age. Okay. All right, now you can actually take a look at, so now if you take a look at the hello controller RB file, in respond action, it's actually using params user. Okay, so what it means is that it's going to get model object. So it's using model object to assign, to create user object and assign to user. Okay, all right. So now we're going to actually add another column to the table. So you're going to perform migration. So you say Rails generate migration, and we want to add another column called hobby to the user. So you say add hobby to user and hobby string. Okay, and then you can see the migration file has been generated. Okay, and then you're going to perform migration to actually add that column into the table. So until you run rake db migrate, the table is not going to get changed. Okay. All right. So once table is updated with a new column, now we are going to modify the code. So we are going to modify the view index HTML ELB file so that it displays your hobby as well, in addition to your name and age. Okay. So again, you have to actually follow the same pattern. So text field user and the name of the property called hobby. Okay. And respond here, we are going to add another line displaying the user's hobby. Okay, and then you are going to refresh the page, and now you're going to see enter your hobby, and then you can just type anything you want and submit, and then you are going to see the hobby is one of the property that is being sent to the application, to the Rails application on the user model. Okay, and all right, so I'm going to give you about 5 minutes for you guys to try this exercise 2. Alright, so next topic is session. So how is session is used for web application? So session gets created for each user. So whenever each user is working with your application, meaning actually connected with the application, a session gets created. So sessions store objects, meaning states, between requests. So as long as a session, until the session gets closed, the session can be the place where you can save state of some object. Okay, and good example of saving, good example object you want to save in a session is like a shopping cart object. Okay, so if you are building online shopping application, you want your user to be able to add items. Okay, so that shopping cart object will actually maintain the items that have been added. So every time user added another item, that will be added to shopping cart object, and so it will be accumulated. So without the session, basically every single request will have the brand new state. Okay, so that's not what you want to happen, right, with your shopping cart. So basically that's the time we are going to use a session. So I mean, the concept of session is not unique to the Rails. I mean, it has to be provided in every single web application frameworks, right? Okay. All right. So how to place object into a session? So you can place an object into a session like this. So basically you are going to create some object. So whatever method you're going to call, and that object will be saved into a session in the key value pair. So here this is the key, okay, and this is the value. So basically session person will maintain the value that is returned from this method call. Okay. Later on, you can access that session object by invoking session and person, okay, by providing the key. For removing the object from the session, you can either assign a single key like nil. So basically, you're going to actually set the nil as a value, or you can remove the entire session by calling reset session. So if you call this one, the whole session will be removed. Okay. Okay, so where session data stored? So session data could be actually stored in multiple storage schemes. So you could actually use a cookie store, or you could use a database. You can actually save in your database. So that is basically action record, active record session store. You can save in the Rails cache or memcache. Okay. So all session stores use a cookie to store a unique ID for each session. So basically session is going to be stored in some place, and as a default is going to be saved in the cookie store. I'm going to actually move forward. Yeah, so I'm going to just explain the exercise 3.1, then we are going to just move forward. 3.1. Okay, so here we are going to actually create a session, the item, and that's age added. Okay, so whenever user enter some age, we are going to just keep adding it. Okay, so the age added will be saved into total age variable, and this is going to be displayed in the response HTML ELB file. Okay. All right, so when you actually run this application, okay, so whenever you are actually adding your new age, okay, the value is going to be keep increasing. Okay, so the if you add 8, then value is going to be 19 because that the session object is actually being maintained across the request. Okay, so so that's where this value keep increasing. Okay. All right, so that and so that's basically 3.1. Pretty simple exercise. The exercise 3.2, I don't really see the need for doing this exercise. It's not that much important. So we're gonna just skip 3.2. Okay. It's just using, the active record, meaning database, to maintain the session. Okay. So it's not that much important. All right, now we're gonna actually move forward with a flash. Flash is important topic, as you probably guessed. Okay. And we have some exposure to Flash as well. Okay, so what is Flash? Flash provides a way to pass temporary objects between two consecutive actions. So anything you place in a Flash in the first the request and response cycle will be exposed to the next subsequent action. Okay, subsequent request and response cycle. And then it's going to be cleared out. So this is a great way. Flash is a great way to kind of give back the notification or alert to a user. Okay. By the way, in order to use a Flash, you can just use Flash object. Okay. So Flash and notice, and then you can specify whatever values like this. And then this Flash notice could be actually used in a view. Okay. And you can actually place any object in there, and you can put as many as you like at a time as well. Okay, so Flash, again, you can think of it as like the hash map. Okay, all right. So typically you are going to use the Flash for redirection. That's typically what typical web application is using the Flash. Okay, all right. So this is a Flash example. So this is a first action. So if you call create action, this is first action. So we are going to set Flash with successfully created post. Okay, and then we are going to redirect to display. Okay, so when you redirect, basically you are asking the browser to make another request to another URL, right? So that is considered as a second subsequent request and response cycle. Okay, so the second action. So in this case, it will actually call the action display. So when this page gets displayed, the Flash notice will be displayed, and then if you refresh it, then that will be gone. Okay, yeah. So in this code, this is the first action which set the Flash, and then it redirect to this action. So the second request and the response cycle, second request will actually call this display. So because it's display, it will use the view of display.html.elb file. So in that ELB file, you can use if Flash notice, and then you are going to display the value. Okay. Now here, if you refresh this page one more time, then it's going to be gone, because that is considered the third request and response cycle, right? All right. Okay, so let's do exercise 3.1 and 3.3. So let me explain exercise 3.3. Okay, so here, this is the same example, but this time we are saving user age in Flash. Okay, so the session has to be just to maintain until session gets closed, right? So this is going to keep adding values. Okay, total age is going to be keep added. Okay. However, Flash age will be added just once, and that gets displayed once, and then it will be gone. Okay, so that's basically what happens. So here we are displaying not only a total age, but also Flash age. Okay, so when you actually enter this value with this 6, okay, and then it will get displayed once. Flash age is 6. Okay, now if you actually add another one, okay, then it's going to be, considered as a third, the request cycle. So that's basically it's going to actually just have number 9, okay, and on enter 10. Then again the total age keep increasing, but Flash age is going to be So the Flash I'm actually seeing Yeah, the subsequent page is supposed to be displayed. Okay, so modify, and then we enter age. And flash age is 6. Yeah, so at this point I think a step is missing. So now if you actually click, if you refresh the page, then flash age is supposed to be, null basically. Okay, and then when you enter this one again, the flash age is 9, and then the go to index. Yeah, so I don't think this is actually a good example for showing the flash. I just want to actually show the subsequent steps. I have to actually try this one. Okay. All right, so I'm going to actually ask you guys to 3.1 and 3.3. Okay. In this case, this is respond. Yeah, so looks like documentation is not really completely correct. It's probably wanted to show the refresh. The second time it is actually trying to access it, it should actually display the page. But if you try refresh it again, then it should be gone. Okay. So, all right. So I'm going to give you guys about the 10 minutes to try this, and let's have 10 minutes break as well. So we'll be back at 3:40. Okay. In the meantime, let me try this. Okay, so next topic is rendering. So, basically, so far what we have seen is that the default view gets selected, reflecting the name of an action. Okay, so in Rails framework, after an action is performed, it's going to search for a template, okay, whose name is name of the action.html.elb file or hamal file. So we are not, we haven't talked about the hamal yet. So mostly it's going to actually look for action name.html.elb file, okay, in the app views and /controller directory. Okay, and so the selection of the view is automatically done, and the selection of the view is based on the name of the action. So example is something we have worked on all along today. So after say hello action of hello controller is performed, Rails will look for say hello.html.elb template or say hello.hamal file under apps, views, and the name of the controller directory. Okay, so something we already know. All right, sharing variables, sharing instance variables. Again, this is something that we talked about several times already. So in controller code, this is a show action. So show action has instance variable called @post, right? And that @post should be available to the template. Okay, so template you can just use that object, okay, like this. So again, we have seen this example many times. Okay, so default view selection on action name. Again, this is actually kind of something we already talked about. Okay, so index. This is another example. So by default, suppose we have guest book controller, which has index action. Then once this indexation is done, then it's going to look for index.html.elb file under the correct, yes, so basically on the app views guest book directory. Okay. Manual rendering. So if you need to actually select a particular view, you can certainly do that. Okay. So suppose if you perform a search operation, so you have a search method, okay, search action, and depending on the result, depending on the how many is returned, okay, you might want to actually use a different the view. So if there is no result, okay, you want to display no results that HTML file, HTML.elb file. If there is only one, then you want to actually just display that item. So you want to use the show.html.elb file. If there are more than two, then you want to use the view that is called show underscore menu.html.elb file. So this is an example where you can manually select a view in your controller code, in your action code. Okay, so rendering an actions view. So you actually have a multiple syntax to use to select a particular view. So this is the same thing. So you can say render edit. So this is a string, or you can use render and symbol. Okay, so yesterday we talked about symbol. You can use symbol in any place. You can use a string and vice versa. So these two are the same. Or you can specify an action, render action edit. So these three things are actually same thing. Basically, it's going to select edit.html.elb file. Okay. You can also specify the layout. So, instead of using default application layout, you can specify, if you specify layout false, that means I don't want to use any current active layout. Okay. Or you can specify particular layout. Okay. So instead of using default layout, you can specify your own layout for that particular view. Okay, you can also select a template from another controller. So far what we have done is that, a view is selected under the same controller on the app/views directory, right? However, there could be some cases that you want to select a view from a different controller, right? So in that case, you can specify the name of the controller. So assuming this view does not belong to products controller. Okay, so suppose if you are actually running code in admin products controller, in that case, it's going to use the views as a default under admin products, app/view/admin products, the directory. However, if you want to use a products show template, then you can also specify the complete path. So this is in fact the name of the controller that you want to use, and this is the view under that controller. Okay, so same thing. This is the same thing as this. Okay, so this is a shorthand version of it. So rendering in different ways. So this is exactly the same thing. Okay, so all these things actually result in selecting edit.html.elb file. Okay, so you can use this shorthand format. Again, you can use the string format. This is the all symbols, or you can use action edit. Or you can actually specify complete name of the file, like edit.html.elb file. If you actually specify just edit like this, and if there is in fact Hamal file, then Hamal file will be actually chosen. Okay, but we'll talk about Hamal later on. And you can also use this. Okay, and you can use the complete. So this is the where you can actually specify the controller. Okay, and you can also use the template. The data like this. Okay, and you can also provide a complete path, and you can also provide a file notation like this. Okay, so these are all result in the same view selection, edit.html.elb file. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at exercise 4. Okay, so here we are playing around with the rendering. So here, if you want to provide render text, okay, so first what it does is it's going to call the respond method. So it's going to actually call this guy first. Okay, so it will create the user object, then it set the session, and then it set the flash and things like that, and then it's going to just display text. Okay, so it will display user's age is, and then string interpolation. It will just display the user's age. Okay, so this is just when you want to just display the text. Okay, and then these four schemes are the same. Okay, so here the render action 1 action, and it will call the respond first, and then it's going to select the respond view. So respond.html.elb file will be selected. Okay. So this is the same thing. So this is using symbol. This is using string. Okay. Or you can the simplified the shortcut is render and then just the respond. Okay, so this will actually just select the respond.html.elb file. So this is the simplified, most simple and most popular scheme for selecting a particular view. Okay, and you can also specify the your controller. Okay, so this is not really needed because you are this is actually hello controller anyway. Okay, but you can still specify it. Okay. All right, so now when you actually refresh the page, you are going to have this routing error. Okay, so because we don't have any routing error for render text. Okay, right? So it's trying to find render text. We have a render text action, but we haven't set the routing. Okay, so we have to change the routing here. So match controller action and format. Yeah, so this is as a default. Comment out. So you want to just uncomment this. Okay. So what it does is that we're going to actually learn the routing as the next topic. So basically, it will select the first one is going to be considered as the controller. The next one will be selected as the action, and the next one is going to be selected as an ID, and then it will also take as a format. Okay. All right. So in this case, basically it will try to So because this is actually comment out, it couldn't actually find out which controller and which action to be actually invoked for that. The only thing that is actually set has been this. So you want to just uncomment this guy out, and then if you say rake routes, then you also see this is actually now configured, right? Okay, and then you might want to just change the modify this one to render text to just indicate that render text is actually being used. Okay, and then when you refresh it, when you actually run it, then you are going to actually see this is actually render text is coming from the render text. Okay, and then for that two is you're going to use this is just the changing the action render action 1. Okay. So that this is going to actually, invoke render action 1, the action from the controller. Okay, and then you do submit, and then, basically this gets displayed. Okay, and render action 3. I mean, this is all, result in the same kind of the result. Okay. Right. So as you can see, it's going to just display. The same thing, respond.html.elb file. Okay, so the result is all the same. Okay. All right, and okay, so now for the render template, the same deal. Okay, so nothing really. Yeah. Okay. So I am going to give you guys about 10 minutes to do this exercise. Next topic is rendering XML or JSON instead of HTML. So far what we have seen was selecting a view which is in the form of HTML file, and that's the default. Okay. However, you can actually select different format to return. Again, a client will ask for a particular format, whether the client wants .xml or XML or JSON or YAML. So client can specify the format it wants. If the client does not specify, then the default, which is HTML, will be selected. Okay. All right, so from Rails 1.2, this respond to is introduced, which actually make it really easy for selection of the format for your response. So let's see the code. Okay. Now, so the basically the in routes.lb file, the format is actually can be specified. So if the user specify that format information, for example, users could actually say .xml, .json, or .yaml, or .whatever. Okay, without any of this format information, then it will be the default format, which is HTML, will be selected. Okay, but user can certainly specify this format, and that is also actually specified in the routing map. Okay. All right, so when that is selected, then basically in your code, you can use this respond to block, respond to method, and passing a block of this, okay, where you can actually specify what is the view that you want to return. So here, if the format is HTML, then that's the default. Basically, there is nothing. It will just select the HTML file that we've been actually selecting so far. However, if the format is XML, then this is going to be executed. So it's going to render XML, and then it's basically the XML that gets generated is going to be from users to XML. Okay. And if it is RSS, and then action is the fees.rxml file. So whatever logic here will be used to create XML or JSON. Okay, so it's very simple in Rails to generate an XML or JSON or RSS, whatever format that is actually requested from the client. Okay, so the Rails framework selects the respond format according to the format requested in the URL. So if the user said webblock, then HTML will be selected, and if the user say webblock.xml, then XML will be selected, and if the user say webblock.rss, then RSS will be selected. Again, this mapping has to be actually specified in the routes.rb file, as actually talked about right here. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's take a look at the exercise 6. So this is the same code, but here we are going to modify. An action. Hold a second. I have to actually move my computer to the power source. So this is an action of list that we change to take advantage of this respond to method, okay, coming from again application controller parent class. So here what we did is that if the format is HTML, then we are not going to do anything. If it is XML, meaning if the XML has been requested, then we are going to generate an XML from users. And if it is JSON that has been requested, then we are going to generate the JSON. So very simple. Okay, so we're going to actually just change list. Okay, and you can change others as well, but we're going to just change list with the respond to, and that should actually work exactly as expected. So here, when you call the hello/list.xml, then you are going to see XML format. Okay, and when you actually see JSON from the client, list.json, then you're going to see the result in the form of JSON. Very straightforward. Okay. All right, guys. I'm going to give you guys another 10 minutes to try this out. So next topic is redirection. So what is redirection? So redirections are used to move from one action to the other. So typically, when you perform or create an action which stores, in this case, for example, like a blog entry into a database, what we want to show is to the user that has been just added. So this is an example of drive principle. So instead of actually reusing to show action, we are going to just reuse the show action, and by just redirecting it. Okay. So redirecting is actually used extensively. So this is an example. Suppose if you created a new entry, so you get the entry from the user, then you created a new entry, and once that is done, so you save it, and once you save the entry, then you want to redirect to show action to display that particular user that has been just added. Okay, so this is typically what you want to do. Okay. And we're going to explain, why this is important, okay, later on. These are examples of redirection. So here you are going to redirect to show action, and you provide an ID of 5. This is redirecting to complete the URL path, and this is the current protocol and host is prepended to the string. So basically, this is going to be just the prepended. This is going to be just added at the end of the your protocol and host, and then you can actually go back to the previous page as well, back to page. Okay. Even more redirected example, so you can actually specify some status information. Okay, all right. All right, now the focus of actually this particular presentation is a classic problem of user refresh. If you are not using redirect, okay, as we have seen in the previous slide, when you create a new item, for example, you are going to have a double submit problem. Okay, so we'll see that problem. So suppose a new user has been created. Okay, and so you created a new user, and then you save it. Then if you just actually display the if you just render an action here, okay, so meaning you're gonna just display the list page, okay, list.html file. Then when the user is actually refresh this page, then the new user this is going to be executed one more time, which is not what you want. Okay, so that's the reason you want to actually have a redirection. So this is the problem code. Don't do this. You should use redirect. Okay, because when the user refresh the page, it's gonna still go to this action. That's the problem of the double submit problem. So let me actually demonstrate that. So that is actually one of the exercises you can actually do. But let me just demonstrate that as well. So this is the case that I'm actually creating new user. Okay, so basically when you go to the respond message, so if you take a look at the respond action here, if you take a look at the respond action, okay, so it will just create a new user, and then it's going to render the list. Okay, so that's what gets listed here. Now if I refresh the page, then it's going to perform this action one more time. So same user is gonna keep being created. Okay, so this is the problem. So what you want to do is we want to redirect, so that redirect it to a show page, which is basically HTTP GET. So even if user actually refresh that page is not gonna actually change the state on the server. Okay, so that's basically what we are talking about. Okay, so the corrected behavior is supposed to be redirection. So here you are going to redirect to action list. So in this case, you are going to ask the user to go to this the list action, okay, which is actually so list action will be performed, and then the that page, even if that gets refreshed by user, it's not going to actually add another user. Okay, so that's basically, this is what you need to do. Okay, so that's why the redirection is important whenever you make a change on your server-side state, creating a new user, or adding a new user. Creating a new user is actually typically the case that we are talking about here. Okay, so when you change it, now when you change it, then even if you refreshed it, there should not be any consequences. Okay, because this is HTTP GET. It will just list the page. Okay. All right, so exercise 5 is actually to experience that problem. So let's actually go to exercise 5. Okay. All right, so you might want to delete all the records. Just start from clean state. Okay. So you can do rake db reset. That means everything is going to be reset. The table will be there, but all the contents of that table will be deleted. Okay, so that you can actually start from scratch. Okay, so or you can just delete all these records. Okay, from this the SQLite browser. Okay, it's just basically to make sure that we are starting from clean state. Okay, now this is the bad code. Okay, so basically we are just rendering we are just rendering a list. Okay, so we we are not redirecting it. Okay, so we just basically get all the users by calling. We call the list and we get all the users, and then when you actually call the render action list, it's not actually performing the action of list. It's just selecting a view of the list. So I should actually say, rather than render action list, I should say render colon list. That's probably shorthand for getting a list view. Okay, so in this case, so this is the list page. Okay, when you actually run the project and then you enter the new user, okay, then this is what you get. Okay, so you can see this is actually still respond, right? So if user actually refresh it, okay, then another user is going to be created. Okay, so you see this one, then you're going to actually see the new user is actually, so in a sense this is a duplication. Okay, so that's the reason. So if you browse the data, you can see there are two duplicate items added. Okay, so you want to actually redirect instead of using a particular view at the rendering a view directly. Okay, so you're going to redirect to, in this case, action of list. So in this case, the browser is going to call the list action, this guy. Okay, and then the list.html.elb file will be displayed. Okay. Like this, and then if the user refresh the page, there is no consequences. Okay, and there is only one entry that is actually added to the database table. Okay, so that's basically what you are talking about. Okay, so I'll give you guys about 7 or 8 minutes to finish this exercise. So filters are methods that are run before, after, or around a controller action. And filters are inherited. So if you set a filter in application controller, then that will be applied to every action of every controller in your application. Before filter could actually halt the request cycle. So before filter, it might actually check whether request data that came from user might not be actually the right value or something like that, or based on business logic or whatever. It could actually stop the whole handling of request cycle and just return some response. So this is an example of before filter. So the way that you are going to add a filter to your controller is using before filter method and then name of the filter. And then you're going to have a name of the filter as a method. Okay, so in this case, what we want to do is we do not want any user to just access your controller. So we want to make sure user is in fact logged in. Okay, so we have this require login as a before filter, and we check whether user is logged in or not. And if the user has not been logged in, then we are going to create a flash error message here, and then we are going to redirect to login page. Okay, all right. So that's an example of before filter. Around filter is to invoke so this is around filter. So around filter is something that you do something before a method action gets invoked, and after action gets invoked, you want to do something as well. Okay, so in this case we have set around filter, and then this is the name of the filter, and you want to actually apply this filter with only to show action. Okay, so you can use only or except. Okay, so here basically we like to apply this filter only to show action. Okay, and this filter, which is called the wrap in transaction, is basically you want to perform. So you do whatever you want to do, and then you can call yield. Yield is actually invoking the real action, in this case show, and then you can actually do something else. Okay, so in this particular example, we are not doing anything special before and after, but in this case, we're actually doing some transaction kind of things. Okay, but in hands-on lab, we'll see a bit more the intuitive example. So before yield, we're going to actually do something, and the yield, when yield is invoked, that actually calls the real target action, and then after yield, you do whatever you want to do as well. Okay, so let's take a look at the last hands-on lab exercise, filter. So this is the same code. So here we are, this is the exercise 6. We are going to actually go to exercise 7. Okay, so here we are going to add the before filter and around filter. So first we are going to add the before filter, and we want to apply only to list. Okay, and you can actually have multiple actions here. Okay, and the name of the filter is get all users. Okay, so here we have a filter get all users. So this is probably not the best example, okay, but it shows you the syntax of it. So instead of actually getting all users inside the list itself, we are actually using get all filters, the filter, get all users filter to get the users object, okay, and then so instead of doing this one directly, we are just using the filter. That's all. Okay. All right, and it works exactly the same. In the result is going to be the same. Okay. Now this is around filter. So around filter is called the get all users to, and again we want to apply only to list action. Okay. So if you take a look at the list action, so if you take a look at the this filter get all users to, okay, here we want to display some logging message. Okay, and then we get the all users object, and then we call yield. Okay, so yield is basically calling this. So basically setting the other format, and then we display another message. Okay, so when you refresh the page with a list, what you are going to see is this is being performed before calling a list action, and then list action is performed, and then you are going to display the you are going to actually do something else, in this case displaying another dummy message. Okay, so just to show you the more the syntax side of the filter in this exercise. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes to do this exercise.